where to start with Lord of Rings Gollum. It was a game that I was at first excited for, as it has been a while since a Lord of Rings game came out, and I found it interesting that they picked Gollum as the main character, as he does have a very fascinating story, and it's sadder than most people realize. The game had already been delayed 3 times before finally releasing on the 25th of May this year. The game started out with you in Mirkwood getting questioned by Gandalf. Then a flashback starts playing with you in Mordor. The first few hours of this are some of the most boring gameplay, and not a very good introduction to the game. You spend the first few minutes walking with not really much happening. There are a few points where the game teaches you some of the mechanics, but since there aren't really that many, it feels for the most part like a walking simulator. The most exciting part of the beginning was when you started getting chased by the Nazgul, and that only lasts for a few minutes. Oh, hello. After getting caught by the Nazgul, the game turns into a slave simulator, with you doing small and boring tasks like collecting slave tags and putting bees back in cages. Now, besides the boring tasks and missions, how are the graphics? Well, best I can say about them are that they're alright. At best, there are some moments where I found that it looks pretty good. And for the most part, I think the world looks decent. For the most part. Now, since we are on graphics, while the world might look alright at best, the character design are horrible. I think there isn't one character design that I liked. The best one was Gandalf, and even that one was wrong. He is called Gandalf the Grey. Why is his beard black? Now, before getting to Gollum's design, here are some honorable mentions. The Mouth of Sauron. Ironic that his mouth is covered. Thranduil. What the fuck is even that? All the orcs and elves pretty much. Now we got the main character, the ex-hobbit himself, Gollum. Gollum's character design is just weird, like why is his lips so thick and mouth so big? Why does he have a full head of hair? Many of us probably have the Lord of the Rings movie version of the Gollum in our head when we think of him, and the developers probably had the same in their head when designing Gollum, so why didn't they make him look more like Gollum we all know? There might have been some licensing difficulties we don't know about, but still, how did this ever make it into the game? I'm just glad it wasn't their other version of Gollum, as it could have been a lot worse. Someone made a better Gollum model in a single day than this did in years. Now, how does the game run? I didn't get any crashes, but the movement Gollum is pretty whack. There have been some times where the game just stuttered, or running on certain places that just didn't work properly. His movement when turning around isn't always smooth and feels more like you're turning a robot. There's been times where Gollum just doesn't jump the right distance and just misses completely, even when the game tells you to jump. But what about the lore? At least that's good, right? Well, it's alright. They do get the general story of Gollum right, about how he was captured by Sauron and tortured. Now we don't know for how long Gollum was his prisoner, only when he was released. Gollum had thought he had escaped on his own, but the orcs let him escape on the orders from Sauron. They didn't show that part in the game, which I got disappointed by. In the game, it said he was prisoner for 8 years, which doesn't seem likely. While it's technically not wrong, it just wouldn't make much sense for Sauron to keep him in prison for that long, since as soon as Gollum told him everything, it would have been better to let him go so he could help him finding the ring. After that, he gets captured by Aragorn and taken to Mirkwood, where he's imprisoned and questioned by Gandalf. Now, they didn't show the part where he gets captured by Aragorn, but they do mention it. Gandalf had hoped for Gollum that he would be healed from the damage of the ring, so he told Thranduil to be kind to him and keep him safe in his kingdom. This is shown quite well in game, as there's a scene where Thranduil says,
"So then you would not mind if I had that creature drowned in the river?"
I would mind.
And then there's another scene where some elves are mocking Gollum, and Gandalf tells them off and is kind to him. They added small details like calling Aragorn the Dunedain, which is one of the names we hear him being called in the books, and it's something I liked. I was quite disappointed about Shelob. You see her for a few seconds in the beginning, and not again until about the middle of the game when you escape. In the lore, Gollum almost gets eaten by Shelob until he promises to bring her more food, which he does in the Lord of the Rings with Frodo and Sam. I was really expecting more of an actual interaction with her, and even some dialogue. Now, one part they both got right and wrong at the same time was the ending, and Gollum's escape. Gollum escaped from the elves of Mirkwood after letting him climb a tree, and he refuses to climb down. And the elves have no mind to climb after him. This went on until dark, and the orcs attack, giving Gollum a chance to escape. It happens similar in the game. The elves let him climb a tree, and after a while the orcs attack, and then you can escape, and that's the game. There are some changes, but not really many I'm too pissed about. Like there being a whole festival going on. Something weird they added to Mirkwood was the haze. This magical barrier that protects the realm from outside threats. This is something that was not in the books, and I don't really see the point to adding this. I could have forgiven the wonky mechanics and terrible character design if they just had the story and the missions right. Picking Mordor and Mirkwood as the only locations limit the amount of content they could have used. What would have been a better layout of the game in my opinion? I would say have the game start in the Misty Mountains instead, and let's have the riddle game with Bilbo and transitions to when Bilbo escapes from us. Then we can have a cutscene where Gollum travels before coming to Mordor. If possible, we can do a mission in Dale before Mordor where we get some information on Bilbo. Then we arrive in Mordor and get captured. After a bit of torture, we think we know the way to escape, but it was already planned by Sauron to let us go. We have to stealth our way around Barad-dûr, sneaking and distracting our way to the Mountains of Shadow. Whilst making our way to the mountains, we encounter Shelob and have some dialogue with her where we have to convince her not to eat us. After promising to bring her more food, we leave. A cutscene plays that shows us getting captured by Aragorn. We're then taken to Mirkwood, where we meet Gandalf and we get interrogated by him before we escape. Then we can have something close to the original game except the whole blind elf bit. We then get the whole escape scene where the game ends like it does now. Now this is just the layout of the story, not all the rest like actual missions and stuff. But I just think it might have been a better layout than what we currently have. Again, we don't know what rights they have, so this might have been impossible. Now in conclusion, do I recommend the game? Not really. There's just too much wrong with it, and there really isn't a lot of interesting to do. And what wonderful price are they asking for this, you might ask? $50. Without DLCs. There will be a day when Tolkien fans will get a good, modern RPG game set in the Tolkien universe. But today is not that day. If you want to see me actually play this horrible game, then make sure to check out this video next. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.